Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our breakfast briefing. Today we've got Amanda Heritage, and she's going to be talking to us about how to build your personal brand on LinkedIn. This is a 1-hour session, and if you have any questions, please do add them to the chat box. So over to you, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I was just thinking, actually, sorry I couldn't bring the sunshine. I'm in Buckinghamshire and it looks dreadful today. So it's gloomy and not sunny. So, but thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here this morning. And I may know some of you and you may recognise me, and I'll explain why in a second. So today we're going to talk about building your personal brand on LinkedIn. LinkedIn personally is something I've always used in my whole career. It's been an extremely successful tool for me. I use it more so than ever now, and I'll explain why in a minute. But this is a really good opportunity for me just to share with you how you can build and your personal profiles. This is not about recruitment at all. This is very much about building your personal profile on LinkedIn to allow you to connect to people that will make a difference to your business, to connect to business decision makers, and really to grow the brands that you represent as well. So before we go into the agenda, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to introduce myself. So Amanda Heritage Digital Solutions, which is my business, was launched in January 2019. Just a year before the biggest pandemic we've ever come across in our life, but we're not here to talk about that today. And my whole philosophy of my business is to make your brand work harder, and I do this through digital and social solutions. So I work with clients with 10 different services on social media, email marketing, content creation, SEO and Google Ads. And prior to launching my business in 2019, I actually had an 18-year career in field marketing, and hence why some of you might recognize me, because I spent 5 years at Expediate where I was head of convenience. So I used to spend a lot of time with convenience clients in head offices and various people, which was great. I loved that career, but through some personal circumstances, it might have changed. I decided that now was the right time to start my own business. And 13 years at CPM, where I was an account director and an account manager. So I have plenty of experience within the retail division, and it's great to be able to now pull upon this and take this into my new business of digital solutions. So in terms of the agenda today, just a little bit of insight to LinkedIn. So what LinkedIn's about, some nice numbers to look at, and why you should have a LinkedIn profile, how to create a standout profile, the types of content that you should be using to allow people to want to engage with you and to motivate people to engage with you. I'm going to talk to you about an SSI score, which some of you may be familiar with. The SSI stands for Social Selling Index. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something called a coffee cup routine, which is something that will hopefully help you. Just a summary that talks about when it comes to social media, and then any questions. But I would encourage you to actually ask any questions throughout the presentation and pop these in the chat box, because it would be great to hear some of your own personal experiences, or if you've got some own individual questions that you'd like me to answer today. So in terms of LinkedIn itself, there are around 756 million users that are now on LinkedIn, of which 310 are active on a regular basis. 326 million of those users are female and 430 million users are male. This is quite an interesting one, because I thought it might be slightly higher in terms of the demographic of the users of LinkedIn when I was doing some research the other day. So the age group with the most LinkedIn users is between the age of 25 and 34. Maybe I thought it was higher because I'm older. And 10 million C-level executives are on LinkedIn. 9,132 connections are made every 60 seconds on LinkedIn. That's a lot of connections. And 3 professionals sign up every second. And during 2020, as a totality, digital and social media grew immensely. And obviously people were furloughed, people were at home, people had a little bit more downtime to be searching on social media. So 60% more content was created on LinkedIn and 55% more conversations were held. that hasn't actually maintained those numbers in 2021, but it's certainly grown in between 2019 and 2021. So 2020 certainly grew immensely, probably like we'll never see it grow before. And it's slightly dipped down, but we certainly have never come back to 2019 levels, which is really positive. And then in terms of why you should have a LinkedIn profile, a LinkedIn account is vital. Basically, it's one of those things now that almost, if you don't have one, people wonder why you don't have one. And LinkedIn is a lot of people's immediate go-to. I've been recruiting for somebody to come and work with me in my team recently, and the first thing I did was I went onto LinkedIn to see their profile, to see what experience they had, to see to read a little bit about them, and that's used for obviously for a lot of reasons as well. But also when you're making connections with people, when you're meeting people, they go to LinkedIn, and as a team of professional people, you really need to have a LinkedIn account if you haven't got one. You can build a virtual professional network, which acts in much the same way as real life networking. And I think this is one of the reasons why it grew immensely in 2020, because we didn't have that real life networking. I personally do a lot of networking for my business, and I see LinkedIn very much in the same light. So I use LinkedIn to share content about the industry that I represent. I use LinkedIn to connect to people, to have conversations with you, no different to what you would do if you were standing in a room full of people connecting with them. You can build your personal brand by developing a really good standout LinkedIn profile that highlights your expertise and your areas of excellence, which other people can endorse. So there's nothing better than if you're trying to work with a particular brand or you're trying to work with a particular client, if they can go over to your LinkedIn profile and they can see that level of information about you, and they can see that other people that you've worked with have endorsed you. Very much like a testimonial, it runs along the same kind of concept. And it allows you to share thought leadership content that positions you as an expert within your industry. So thought leadership being the kind of content that actually people will look at and think, this person knows exactly what they're talking about. They're an expert, they understand the challenges of the industry, they understand some of the areas that are not necessarily performing at the moment, and really positions you as somebody who knows their stuff. There's a but there, because yes, we should all have a LinkedIn profile, but there are some key things that we should be doing to ensure that that profile, first of all, connects to people in the right way, but also positions us in the right way. And there are some easy, quick wins, which I'm going to talk to you about today. So the first thing you should do is, in terms of creating out your standout profile, is I would say that these four things, or probably three things on here, are really, really important. So your banner, which is the thing at the top of the page, which is pretty, needs to represent you and your brand, and it needs to fit. And the amount of people that I train, the amount of people that I work with, that you go onto their LinkedIn profile, their banner is old, it doesn't fit properly, it doesn't represent their business, it doesn't look nice. You look at it and you think, what is that telling me? And if you don't look at your own LinkedIn banner and understand what that's telling you, then absolutely nobody else will. So that banner needs to be absolutely perfect and to represent who you are and what you're about. There's some really good free tools, and I don't know whether any of you have heard of Canva, which is CANVA, which is a free graphic design tool which allows you actually to create content for social media across all platforms. And it knows the exact size of a platform when you say, I'm here today to create a banner for LinkedIn. So what will happen is you'll upload everything and it will automatically size it for you. But that's really key. If you think about, that's the first impression that somebody gets when they go onto your LinkedIn profile. Your profile image, so that picture of me there, which is probably really old, actually, I need to update it, needs to reflect you in terms of your professionalism, looking approachable. So what you don't want is, you don't want an image where you're looking miserable, you've got, you're holding the dog and you know the kind of thing I'm thinking about. It's got to look professional. You can actually put a video there now. So you can put a video there that people can click on and play. And I haven't done that, but that's a really nice way of doing it as well. And actually, you can change that video on a regular basis to have some really nice key messages in as well. This is probably, the next thing is probably the one thing I would say people get wrong all of the time. So if I didn't understand the benefits and the key advantages of what to put on my headline, mine would say digital marketing business owner, and it would tell people who I am and what I do. But actually what you should be using that headline for is to drive the value in what you can do for your clients. So tell them what you can do and how you can help them, because actually they don't need to know what your job title is on the homepage. They can see that further down when they start to look at your experience. What they will do is be attracted to 280 characters, which is how much you get in your headline, that tells them the value that you can bring to their business. So mine, as an example, is driving strategic, social and digital solutions with proven results, standout creative, engaging and memorable messaging for your brands that drive engagement and sales growth. So hopefully anybody that reads that comes onto my LinkedIn profile immediately will know the value that I can deliver to their business. The other part that's really good, and actually is only 6 months old, and it might be applicable to some of you, it might not be applicable to all of you, is you can actually put your services on your homepage now. So you can actually add your services on in terms of what you offer. You can put prices on there as well if you want to, and it's an opportunity for people to dig a little bit deeper into your headline. So an opportunity for people to say, oh, that's really interesting, you know, Amanda drives strategic, social and digital solutions, but actually what are the specific services that she offers? So again, you can do that by filling out your providing services part of your homepage. Just out of interest, be really good to hear, does anybody have a particular headline that talks about the value that you bring to your clients and your customers, as opposed to having just your job title? Has anybody heard of that before and has changed that? Pop it in the comments, or we can have a chat about it. Brilliant, thank you. Someone said seeing a lot of it, but I don't have it, which is really key, and I'm glad that you've seen a lot of it. It's just great that we can hopefully talk about it today, and it's one thing that you can go away and change. The other part that's really, really important for oh, for some reason I can't move on. I don't know what's happened there. Oh, there we go. The other part that's really, really important is your about section. So your about section should follow some real specifics. Your about section is, as mentioned in the beginning, it's like being a networking session, and you're talking to people that ask you to tell them about you, who you are, what your business is, what you represent. So there's five key areas actually. So what you do, why you do it, how you do it, what your call to action is, and then some nice keywords at the bottom. So some nice keywords at the bottom that represent your brand. So we all are familiar with the term people buy from people, and as cliche as it sounds, it's true. We love buying from people, we love their personalities, and if we get on well with people, we go back and we work with them. And, you know, include something about yourself in your about section. So yes, this is a business platform, but you know, people want to know a little bit about you. And the part that I include in mine now is during lockdown, when we all spent our time walking around, I took up photography. I started taking photographs on my mobile phone, and I got more into it. I got a bit more experienced, and now it's become something that I use in my business. I have a proper camera, and I use it in my business. And actually, I've added that to my section. So my kind of love for creativity, my love for photography, and it's not because I want to connect to people who are going to come and have a conversation with me about taking photographs for them, because that's not what my business is about. But actually, it's just a really nice way of showing people a little bit about me as a person, and not just talking about my business, not just talking about what I can offer. So I would urge you all to go away today and really have a look at your about section, and to really think about what that looks like and think about how you can change that if it doesn't follow these key areas here. It's not arrived yet, and one of the things that LinkedIn does quite often is it feeds through changes to people's profile on an ad hoc basis. So one of the things LinkedIn doesn't do is say, right, we're going to have, as an example on this one, hyperlinks within the about section, and we're going to roll that out to everyone's profile. What it does is it rolls those things out to people's profiles, and it's a staggered approach. So you might find you'll go onto your LinkedIn account one day and you might have something that the person sitting next to you doesn't have, and that's purely the way that LinkedIn works. It's almost like they trial it with some people first. But what is coming soon, and again, I know people that have this, but I have it myself, is that you're going to be able to have hyperlinks within the about section. So when you do get those, please add your email address and your website, because actually we all know that people are busy, and if you give them the opportunity to immediately click onto a hyperlink, they will more likely to go straight to your website and drive traffic or email you. So please add that once you get it. The other thing that we all have on our personal profiles is a featured section, and this is probably one of the most underutilized sections on LinkedIn profiles. And you know what, it's great, and it's a huge opportunity for us all to share blogs, to share testimonials, to share white papers, because immediately when somebody logs into your profile, they see the featured section, and if there's nothing there, obviously they'll scroll past. But on mine, I tend to add my client testimonials. So any testimonials that I get, whether it's platform management or whether it's social media consultation, I will add it onto my featured section. So again, I would really urge you to add something onto these sections, because they're there, utilize them and maximize them, but keep them up to date, because some of the things I think that people do tend to do is they will add some great content to their featured section and they never update it. So people will go and have a look at it, and there might be a blog on there that's 2 years old. So actually I would say, you know, make sure that that becomes part of your routine, that on a regular basis you're putting blogs in there or anything else. Does anybody use this featured section at the moment? Never used it before. Brilliant. Okay. It's a great one to use. I would encourage you to use it, because it's an opportunity to PR your business and PR what you're doing. Sorry, it's a little bit slow in terms of moving on to the next screen. Oh, not sure what's going on here. Bear with me. Oh, there we go. The other thing that I would really encourage you to use is the recommendations and skills part of the LinkedIn profile. So, but keep these up to date. So again, another thing that people do is they will go onto their skills. The first time they open their LinkedIn profile, they will update it, and actually they will never go back into it again. And actually we all move within the company that we work in, we get promoted, and make sure that those skills are really, really up to date, because again, people will be looking at those, and potentially connections that you want to talk to or conversations you want to have, people will go and look at those. And your recommendations are really important as well. And those recommendations are not recommendations for any kind of job search. These are recommendations that people you have worked with from a company perspective. So again, if you're trying to attract a particular brand to come and work with you, or you're trying to particular client to come and work with you, point them in the area of your recommendations, but make sure they're up to date, because they're really, really important. But bear with me, I'm just going to look in the connections. Okay, sorry. So make sure they're really up to date, because recommendations like testimonials are of huge value on social media, particularly on LinkedIn. Obviously my laptop doesn't like Tuesday mornings before 10 o'clock, although it's been working since 7 o'clock. It's just a little bit slow, so I do apologize. The other thing that I would actively encourage people to do is to look at groups. Again, really interested to know if anybody looks at groups or works with groups on LinkedIn. Does anybody have any feedback about groups? Anybody used groups on LinkedIn? No, nothing at the moment. So let me talk to you about groups. So, oh, there's a couple of chat. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. So there's a really good opportunity here to become active in groups, and again to represent your brand and to talk about your views and to talk about specific subjects. I just did a search the other day when I was pulling these slides together. So on your homepage, if you in your search box at the top, if you, for instance, put the word wholesale and then click on groups, the second image will show you how many groups currently sit on LinkedIn. Now, this is page 1, by the way. Obviously, it's telling you there's 22,000 results. So I've just done a screenshot of page 1. Tells you how many groups there are that have the word wholesale in. Now, obviously, you can narrow that down by using more words, but I just wanted to use this as an example today. So you can see that on this second image, all of these groups here have got the word wholesale in. What I then done is I clicked into the first one, which is wholesale distribution and retail sales, and that's the third image. And this is a LinkedIn group that's called Wholesale Distribution Retail Sales. It has 22,908 members, and it gives you a description of what that group is all about. These are brilliant. These are really, really good, because actually they don't cost you any money. They're completely free to use, but you can be really vocal and you can be a real representation of your business within these groups. So again, absolutely go and join some groups, relevant groups that are I guess meaningful, and also that you can add some real value, because they're an opportunity to network with some great people and some great brands. So I would urge you to use the groups on LinkedIn as well, and they're great for algorithms as well, which I'll come to talk about a little bit later. Groups have been great for me to connect with new people. Thank you. There's a really nice comment in there. So again, it's really nice to see an example of somebody that's actually used groups to connect, but also to share your views and share your thoughts around the industry. I don't know how much you do use LinkedIn and how much you actually, thank you, Tracy, not use groups before. Hopefully you'll go and use them after today. Is there, I'd be really keen to understand what sorts of types of content you, if you use LinkedIn on a regular basis, you are currently using when you're creating content on your own personal profiles. If you could drop something in the chat, or if anybody wants to have a conversation, I'm keen to know what sorts of things you are currently using LinkedIn for. I'll carry on and I'll go back to oh, there we go, there's a couple in there. Sharing articles, sharing ideas, mostly posts, but have written some articles. Brilliant. Okay, lovely, thank you. And that's what a lot of people use LinkedIn for. The best performing piece of content, there's another, sorry, bear with me, there's another couple. Sharing our new product launch details and campaigns. I've used a couple of links to articles I featured in. Great, that's a really nice thing to do, and I would say carry on doing that. The best thing that you can get some really good traction on and interaction are polls. And polls have become almost, I'm sure we laugh about it, but if you are a regular LinkedIn user, you're probably thinking, oh goodness me, there's another poll, but they're still really, really good. So they haven't kind of died yet. They're really active. People love them. They're really good for your algorithms. They're really good to get people to engage with you. So I use them quite a lot. I do some content for some of my clients as well, and I use them quite a lot, and they're really good to use. So again, I would say to you, have a go at doing some polls, because polls and articles are the two biggest things to share on LinkedIn that will drive really good contact, really good engagement for you. If you are using LinkedIn to create content and create posts, the best thing you can possibly do is to use a video as part. You should never use text these days. Just creating anything on any social media platform and just using text these days is almost, no, you know, it's years old. We sit there and we all have our phones. 85% of people now actually watch content or scroll through content on a mobile device. So you need to make sure that when you're creating a piece of content, you're trying to get your ideal client, your ideal brand to stop and to read your piece versus somebody else's. And if you just create a piece of content these days with just text, it just doesn't do it. It's kind of gone. So the best thing you can do is use a video. Video content is statistically, I believe the stat is that by the end of 2022, over 90% of social media content will be digital. But also photos and imagery is really good. I would urge you though to only use sourced or stock photos, and I've put some sources down here. So Pexels, Pixabay and Unsplash are three sources that allow you to go and use their images without having any kind of issue, legal issues. And I see so many pieces of content, probably not so much on LinkedIn, but other pieces of content maybe on Facebook, where people have just Googled a word, found the first image, used it, and actually it's got stock written all over it. It's not nice at all. And if you think that represents you, that represents the brand that you work with. So please, and also there's obviously legal implications. So please, when you are using imagery, make sure you only source it from or you can pay for stock images as well. But actually, I never pay for imagery. You don't need to. It's free. Bear with me a second. Let me just look in the chat. Should banner graphic be specific to current employer, or is it more about the individual? Great insight and useful content. Thanks, someone which could only make first half. Have a great day. Oh, sharing attendance at trade events. Yeah, no, brilliant. That's a brilliant one, Vicky. Sharing attendance at trade events is really good. Should banner be specific to current employer, or is it more about the individual? If you think about your LinkedIn profile, it's about you, but I would actually build in your employer as well. I would make sure that actually you have on there a nice image of the industry that you work in, and actually add the logo of the employer that you're working for. I think that's a really nice thing to do. Now, obviously you can have business pages, and some people do and some people don't. There are disadvantages and there are advantages, but if you think about your own personal profile, you know, that grows with you. And we're not here today to talk about moving on to different jobs, but actually that personal profile will stay with you forever. So it's really important that you maintain that. But whilst you're working at a certain organization, then absolutely brand it as that organization rather than you. Thank you for that question. Your point, Vicky, about sharing at sorry, bear with me a second. It's really slow today. I don't know why. Your point that you made, sorry, Vicky, about sharing at trade events, it's a really good one. And actually, if you're brave enough, and not everybody's brave enough, and you know, I get that, but if you're brave enough to pick up your phone and just do a live and say, oh, we're here today, and you know, I'm here today from X company representing, and do a little bit of a show round of what's going on behind you as well. They're really good. Ad hoc videos for me are much, much, much nicer than scripted. There is nothing worse than watching a video and you can see, there's nothing worse than that. It's disengaging, it's not motivational, but actually, you know, to just hop on and do a live and just say, you know, we're here today. It's a really nice thing to do. And actually, do you know what? If you make a mistake, laugh and move on, because you're human, you're real. And one of the things that we need to be more of from a social perspective is being sociable and engaging with our audience in a really kind of low key way. So don't ever think you've got to have a really professional video, because sometimes those quick jumping ons make a big difference to your content. So it's worth considering those as well. I thought that I would just show you 3 examples of some content that I've shared. I just picked 3 in the last 3 or 6 months, I think they were. But I picked these pieces of content because they are all very different. And one of the things that I quite often get asked about LinkedIn is, should I talk about myself? So should I talk about me, or is this very much around, should I only talk about business? Should I talk about my dog, walking my dog? What should I talk about? What are the guidelines? And actually what's happened is that the LinkedIn was always a very, very, very professional platform. And sometimes you would put something on to LinkedIn and you'd get 2 or 3 comments where people would kind of say, oh, get back to Facebook. And actually what happened during lockdown is that bar dropped, and people just almost, because of the scenario, because of the situation, people became more lighthearted on LinkedIn, not to the extent where it's no longer that professional platform, but almost to bring their personalities out. And I've kind of adopted that as well. And I still have my, I guess, my kind of barriers in terms of what I wish to and wish to not talk about. But here's 3 examples of some content that I've shared, and I thought it'd be really useful for you to see. So the first one is I shared an article. It was an article about looking after yourself and about being genuine and how genuine really matters. And actually, I thought I'm going to talk about that because being genuine within business for me is a real strength and something that people need to be, something that people value. And I shared this. One of the things that you should never do, and again, I'll come to this a bit later, you should never just share a link without your own personal perspective on it. So if you're going to share an article, which I have done on the first image, I've shared the article, but actually I've put some content, I've context this, and that's something you should always do, because otherwise we're just sharing content that's out there anyway, and what value is that adding to our audience? And that's the bit around the thought leadership. That's the bit that makes you stand out and people thinking that person knows exactly what they're talking about. So I just shared this piece of content, and you know, I consider myself to be a genuine person, and I'm proud of that, and you know, I should talk about that. You can see what happened. I got 29,000 views, and the more views and the more comments and the more likes, it gets viral. Not that I would call 29,000 views viral, but the more people that comment, the more people that view, the more people that like it, it's a vicious circle. It gets bigger, it gets better, it goes out to your second community, it goes out to other people. And actually on this one, strangely enough, which is quite unusual, 14 people shared that. So 14 people that were either people that I knew or that were connections of connections shared my content onto their own feed. But you can see that you know, that's a nice healthy number. That's a nice healthy number there in terms of the amount of views. That's quite unusual. I don't always get that many views on a piece of my content. And then the second one, I talked about photography in my about section, and actually on Mental Health Awareness Week, I, on a personal level, have a real weakness in terms of getting up from my laptop and going out and getting some fresh air. And I think, you know, we're all like that, and the nature of head down, get on with what you've got to deliver, deadlines to meet. And I went out for a walk in the evening after work, and I kind of related it back to Mental Health Awareness Week and how, you know, it's something we should all be aware of. We should make a conscious effort to stop at lunchtime and go out for a walk. I personally live in a beautiful village, and you know, I've got a great opportunity to go and do that. But I just shared some images. So I went out for a walk and I shared some images, but I linked it back to Mental Health Awareness Week. I didn't just share some images of some stuff that I'd taken when I walked around. And then the third one that I thought would be interesting is I talked about, again, I shared an article on brand guidelines, the sorts of things you should consider when you're creating a logo. So something that's quite relevant to my own business, because my business is obviously digital, my business is about branding, and something that I personally knew my audience would like and engage with. And I suppose if you think about it, you know, look at the numbers, they differ, they will always differ. And what you need to do is you need to share different types of content, and you need to find the content that your audience like, but you need it to be varied. There is no value in me consistently sharing images of my lovely photography, because I like it, and I love sharing images of my photography, but I think my audience probably, if I shared that every day, might switch off immediately. So you've got to have a varied content planner. You've got to think of what your audience will like, and again, what's going to position you as a thought leader. Has anybody got any experience on anything that they've shared that has created some really good engagement on their own LinkedIn profile? I'm going to move on just because it takes so long. Oh, it hasn't this time, typically. I'll move on and I'll come back to the chat in a minute. We talked about sharing articles. Just bear with me a second. Let me pop into the chat. Any people stories. Just in terms of your content, the thing that I would say to you is, you know, be authentic, be honest, and be genuine, because people want to know who you are, what you do. And, you know, if you want to talk about the fact that you didn't get up from your laptop on this particular day and it's Mental Health Awareness Week and you really should have, and talk about it, because actually people will relate to that. People will say, you know, you're exactly right, I should do more of that, and it will drive engagement. So don't be frightened to be genuine and be authentic on your LinkedIn profile. The other thing, and this was mentioned in the chat, is share articles. There are so many amazing resources out there that yes, it's lovely to write your own blogs, but you can get some amazing content that's really good for your audience. And I've just shown you one example here. This is a fantastic site called Flipboard. Again, I don't know whether people use Flipboard. It'd be interesting to know in the chat, actually, if anybody's actually used Flipboard before. But this is called Flipboard. It's free. And what you can do is you can create an account and you can flag specific topics that you want to be aware of. So from my perspective, I flag digital marketing. I flag some others for some clients that I work with. And actually what I've done is I've shown you on the right hand side a really nice article this was yesterday, actually, because I wanted to get the kind of the latest ones. This is a really nice article that talks about your social media strategy. This would, for me, would be a perfect article for me to share with my audience, because it's people who are a lot of people in the digital industry. It's people that need to understand there's no point just throwing out content. You need a strategy behind your social media, and therefore it will deliver the best results for you. So this kind of thing is really worth doing a little bit of research on and just flagging some key topics that you want to share with your audience, because it will really position you as a thought leader in terms of the types of content that you can share. And just things like BBC News and BBC Business has some amazing content, actually. So it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be some that you haven't heard of, but just really think about utilizing this, because I don't think people utilize it enough. Just bear with me, I'm just going to check the cats. Flipboard looks great. I will definitely use this. Thank you, Sarah. That's a great idea. Not heard of Flipboard. To be honest, somebody told me about it. I'd never heard of Flipboard. Somebody told me about it and I thought, oh my God, this is like a hidden secret. When do you talk about people and not products? I'm not sure I understand that question in total. So whoever put that question, when you talk about people, not products, could you just share a little bit more information on that? And I'll come back to that. But Flipboard is amazing and interesting, as I say, that I'd never heard of it either until someone told me about it. I'd mentioned it before, but never just share a link. Never share a link, because actually you need to summarize it. You need to put your own view on it. You need to put your own expertise on it. And you could put a call to action on it. You know, if there was a specific link that actually was really relevant to your business, you could absolutely summarize it by saying, we can also offer this solution here at, you know, please feel free to head over and have a conversation with us. LinkedIn is not a sales funnel. In terms of creating content, it's an opportunity to position yourself as a thought leader and to show your audience you know what you're talking about and to start trusting you. And when they start trusting you, they'll come and have a conversation with you. If you create content 3 times a week that's about, we are wonderful, we can do this, you know, this is what you can come and buy from us, I can guarantee you, you will not get engagement. If you think about it in a really simple analogy, is if the postman through your post box every day put 3 pieces of sales leaflets, I don't know about you, yesterday I went to our post box and I picked up 4 pieces, and then one of them was a letter and the other 3 things were local leaflets. I didn't even read those. Rightly or wrongly, I didn't even read them. I put them straight into the bin. So actually, LinkedIn is probably of a similar concept. If you try and sell to your audience with every piece of content that you create, they won't read it. They can't put you in the bin, but they won't read it. Just bear with me. Is it just relating to posts that perform well? People posts sometimes get more engagement. People posts do get more engagement. And there's a really interesting statistic that says that for every 12th post that you put out on social media, put your face in it, because people buy people. So if you have a new starter, as an example, there's nothing nicer than putting a picture of a new starter that says, X person has joined the business, we're really looking for, and introduce them on LinkedIn. Use that platform to really talk about the team. The other thing that's really nice is we all work with and we all see national days. So today I have them all in my office. Today isn't any national day, but there will be National Peanut Butter Day, there'll be National, you know, Stay at Home Day. There was an employee motivation day a couple of weeks ago. That's a really nice opportunity to put an image of your team and say, just really want to say thank you to these guys. They do a great job for us here at and really recognize them as well. So those those awareness days make great content. Sometimes people go a little bit overboard with them. Make sure they're relevant to your business, because people will switch off otherwise. Algorithms on LinkedIn work really good on post responses. So when you are writing a piece of content on LinkedIn, try and ask a question in some of your pieces of content, not in every one, but try and ask a question, because if you ask a question, you're more likely to get a response. And when you do get a response, make sure that you then go back and you answer the response. And I'm saying that for a couple of reasons. One is because LinkedIn work your algorithms harder and faster the more responses you have on a post. And also, just respectfully, if people put a comment on your piece of content, you really need to go back and answer it. And even if it just says thanks very much for your views, it doesn't have to be a great big paragraph of information. It's just respectfully recognizing the fact that somebody's gone out of their way to answer your question. This is really nice. Educate, entertain, inspire, and promote. If you write those 4 words down and have them in front of you, and hopefully you'll take a lot away from today, but if you just took those 4 words away from today, that's what you need to be aspiring to. You need to educate your audience, you need to entertain them, inspire them, and then there's a tiny bit of promotion. So don't use LinkedIn to promote your business, use it for all the other reasons as well, because what will happen is that people will trust you, people will buy into you, and people will gain respect for you, and you'll automatically get the promotion part of it without actually promoting your business on LinkedIn. Excuse me a second, I'm just going to look in the chat. What are your thoughts on toggling the open to work banner on your personal profile? Some feedback from recruiters I've spoken to say it's no. I'm not really I don't really focus on recruitment, if I'm honest, when it comes to LinkedIn. I focus more from a business perspective. I guess on a personal level, if I was genuinely looking for a new job, then I would say yes. If I was just dabbling and I was thinking, oh, I might see what's around at the moment, I kind of think it's not the right thing to do. And I think it's not the right thing to do because it's not really respectable to your employers to do that. I would say if you're actively looking, i.e., your role's coming to an end, or you're having a change in direction or change in career, then yes, do it. But not just to see what's out there, to see what's interested. But that really is my personal view. And as I say, I don't focus on recruitment. When I train people on LinkedIn, it's very much around using it as a platform to create a great profile as opposed to getting a new job. But thank you for that question. Thank you, Sarah, for that, saying that they're great words on reminder what to do. I like them. They're easy, they're simple, and they work for me. And if you use those and you work to those, then I can assure you, you'll get some great following. Does anybody have any questions that they want to raise? I'm moving forwards, but just please raise any questions in the chat, because I'm more than happy to answer anything that you might think about that I haven't necessarily covered. The other thing that I would urge you to think about is hashtags. So on every LinkedIn profile, you should put 3 to 5 hashtags at the bottom of your text. But you should research your hashtags. So you shouldn't just, today, if I were to put Ukraine, there would be millions and millions and millions and millions of people using that hashtag and following it. And if you want somebody to find you because of the hashtag that you've used, it needs to be relevant. It needs to be relevant to your post. It needs to be relevant to your sector, and it needs to be relevant to what you're talking about and your organization. And I've just given 2 examples here of how research is really important. If you go onto the search engine in LinkedIn and you put hashtag wholesalers, 733 people are following that hashtag. If you put hashtag wholesale, 11,113 people are following that hashtag. So from somebody that uses LinkedIn quite a lot and somebody that trains people on LinkedIn, I would be saying to you, you need to be using wholesale as a hashtag rather than wholesalers, because look at the difference. Look at the huge difference in terms of the amount of people that are following that hashtag and therefore are more likely to see your post. So do your research. Don't just pick 3 to 5 hashtags. One of the things that I do is quite often I would just sit there for maybe an hour, and I would just spend an hour researching hashtags and putting the numbers next to them and keeping those, keep them somewhere, keep them, on a document somewhere so that you can just copy and paste them, but make sure they're relevant. Make sure they're relevant to the piece of content that you're creating, and research them, because they need to be part of your strategy. Hashtags are so important. Keep them relevant to the post. And also you can follow hashtags of interest, follow them. So, there's as you can see on these images, there's a follow button, follow them. And then you will be able to see people that use those hashtags on their posts as well. There's just a comment in the chat. Oh, it's a long one, bear with me. How do you encourage people to like your posts? Sometimes I get great numbers of views, but not enough likes, or maybe that's telling me something. Some posts get many views whilst others, is there a specific time to put out a post? The one thing I would say is you can't have on LinkedIn, on a personal profile, there is no information in terms of statistics that tell you who's looking at your post, what time they're looking at your post. If you look at Facebook, you can have that. If you look at Instagram, you can have that, but you can't have that on LinkedIn. So I think you just have to think about it sensibly and think about it and relate it back to yourself. So as an example is, do we go onto LinkedIn on a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock? Probably not. Do we go onto LinkedIn on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock before we start working? We probably do. So actually what you need to do is try different things and think about the person you're trying to attract, and therefore post the content on those times. But you need to try different things, because your audience is very different from my audience and will be very different from somebody else's audience. And there's a social company called Hootsuite, which is HOOT Suite. They sometimes put out some stats that say this is the better time to post content, but actually they almost then caveat it with, but yours will be different from mine. So think about it. So you need to try different things, but think about it from your own perspective when you would naturally go on, because the likelihood is that when you go onto it, the person that you're trying to get to look at your post will be the person who will be looking at it at the same time. In terms of getting people to like your posts, again, you need to have a real variety of content. You need to make sure that your content is varied, it's engaging, and try different things, because if you put out the same things all the time, i.e. if you're constantly putting out articles, or you're constantly putting out conversations about the next trade show that's coming up, maybe it's just because they're not motivated by them. So it's no different to how I look at it and how you look at it. You need to try different stuff. So I hope that helps. All right, let's move on. Oh gosh, I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. Engaging with the right people. So if there are specific people that you really want to start engaging with, and you want to start engaging with their posts, and you want to like their posts and comment on their posts, because if you think about it, every single time you do that, that's your brand, personal brand, getting out there. Every time you comment on it, they will see that, and they will start to think, oh, that's interesting, Amanda Heritage is commenting on my post, who is this person? And they'll go and have a look. One thing that's come out recently on LinkedIn is that you can actually get notified when somebody posts something. So I've given you the example here. Not everybody, again, has it at the moment because it's rolling out. And you can only set the bell on a desktop version. So if you go onto your mobile today and try and set the bell, you won't be able to do it. So you need to go onto a desktop version and you just click onto the bell. And what then happens is every time that person creates a piece of content, you get notified. So a LinkedIn notification will come up in your app, or however you use it, or when you go onto your desktop, and you can go on and like it and comment on it. So it's a nice way of following people without stalking them. I'd actively encourage that. I think that's a really nice way of engaging with people. And then in terms of kind of general considerations that you should really be thinking about. So people get hung up on connections. Please don't get hung up too much on please don't get hung up too much on connections. You are far better off having people that engage with you than saying, I really need to get to 5,000 connections. Because if you've got 5,000 connections and only 1,000 of those people are talking to you, you don't need 5,000 connections. So the algorithms on LinkedIn actually work better if you have less connections and they talk to you, the more connections and people aren't engaging with your posts. So don't be frightened, to every quarter say, I'm going to get rid of 10 people. And I don't mean get rid of them, I'm just unconnect from them, because actually it will probably be for your benefit to do that. Asking a question at the end of your content encourages responses. We've talked about that. Always respond to a comment and question within 24 hours. Again, the algorithms on LinkedIn work better if they see you on LinkedIn on a regular basis. LinkedIn don't want you to just turn on or log into their profile, their platform once a week. They don't want that. They want you to be on there every day, and I'll talk to you about how you can do that. And you should be posting a minimum of 3 times a week. So 3 times a week is what you should be posting to make sure that your brand is growing, you're getting your name out there, your audience are seeing your content. And also, share content that's relevant from other people as well. So if I was to create a piece of content today and we were connected, don't be frightened to share that. Put some personal views on it. And it could even be, I read this piece of content from Amanda today, I thought it might be really relevant to some of you within my audience. It doesn't have to have a huge piece of content that's analysing what I've shared or what I've created, but share good stuff. If you think it's relevant to your audience, share good stuff. And the one piece of advice that I always say to people is, when you're sending a connection request, always send a non-sales message with it. We've all been there. We've all had somebody who sent us you know, a message to connect, or maybe hasn't sent a message to connect. Then as soon as we connect, we get the immediate sales message back. I don't work well with people like that, and that's not for me how LinkedIn should work. So I would encourage you, when you are connecting to people, just send a non-sales message. And that can be, you know, I've seen you pop up in my LinkedIn profile, it'd be really great to connect with you. I see we have some synergy. I see we're from the same industry. Make it really nice and lighthearted, and people are more likely to connect with you. I wanted to just talk to you about something called an SSI score, which is a way of measuring how, and I'm really sorry because we've only got 4 minutes, but I will cover this in the other slides. So please stay, because there's a couple of other slides that are good stuff for you. Your SSI score is your social selling index, and it measures how you are acting on LinkedIn. And there are 4 key indicators. It measures how you are establishing your professional brand, how you are finding the right people, how you are engaging with insights, and how you are building your relationships. And each of those 4 pillars are worth 25 points each. And you'll see on the white image how that breaks down. And what it does is it's a really nice way to measure. It's a bit like if you have somebody within your own business that's creating content, it's a nice key performance indicator you can give them in terms of measuring their SSI score. But I personally look at mine. I look at mine every month, and I've given you the link here. And as long as you're logged in to your LinkedIn profile, you can just literally click onto that hyperlink, and the white image that I've shown you here will come up, and it will show you your score out of 100. And you can see underneath what that means. So most people average between 40 and 49, which is good. But I would say the higher your SSI score is, the more exposure you get on LinkedIn. So the more you're turning up, the more you're creating content, the more you're engaging with people, and the more you're building relationships with people, the higher your score will be, and the faster your algorithms will work, and the more exposure you will get. So it's definitely a measurement that I would encourage you to have a look at and to absolutely use. And it's a nice personal measurement as well. One of the things that I always, probably the piece of feedback that I always get from people is, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to go onto LinkedIn on a regular basis. And I did some training for a gentleman, probably pre-lockdown actually, and he was a retired gentleman, and he'd started a financial business on the side. He wanted to have a really good LinkedIn profile. So I did some training with him. And his first words to me were, I'm never going to have the time to get into my LinkedIn profile every day. And my analogy to him was that if he used to, and he did, by the way, because I asked him, if he used to have a newspaper delivered to his front door every day, would he ever pick that newspaper up and throw it in the bin without opening it? And he said, of course not, my dear. And I said, well, that's because, you know, you wouldn't do that. We just wouldn't do that. So think of LinkedIn as your new newspaper. LinkedIn is now the newspaper that you need to open up every single day, because when you open it every day, LinkedIn like you, LinkedIn help you, and LinkedIn will work your algorithms better, but also your brand goes further. And every time you engage, your brand goes further. And the other thing, and totally relatable to my audience today, but the other way I look at it is that a retailer turns up, opens and engages daily, and we all have to do that. If we want to have a successful profile on LinkedIn, we have to turn up, open and engage every single day. This is your virtual retail store. And the nice way that you can do that is called the coffee cup routine. So you grab your coffee cup, and the first cup of coffee in the morning or in the afternoon, however you want to do it, morning I think is nicer, is you sit down with your coffee and you don't open your emails, you don't open anything else. You open up LinkedIn, and until that coffee cup is empty, you're engaging, you're liking, and you're commenting on people's posts. You're not creating a piece of content, you're doing the engagement piece. And when that cup of coffee is gone, start your day in the normal way. And that routine will become the norm for you. And what will happen is, in that 10 minutes, let's say, that it takes you to drink that cup of coffee, you would have engaged with, you would have commented with, and you would have liked a number of posts that your name is associated to. And eventually people will click on your profile and say, oh, that person works for this organization. I wanted to have a conversation with a wholesaler or retailer. So I would, again, actively encourage you to big up your routine on a daily basis, because it's really important to be there on a regular basis and not just turn up once a week. That's not what LinkedIn is about. So my last slide, when it comes to social media, show up daily, be human, be sociable, be you, be yourself, be open, be funny. People buy from people. Yes, we we have to follow maybe some corporate guidelines depending which organization we work for, but be you. People want to engage with you. People want to know about you. People want to hear the funny side of you. So, be human. Add value, show your audience that you know what you're talking about. So add some really nice value if you're sharing an article. Bring it to life, talk about real life examples. It's great. The more value you can add, the more likely people are going to think, I want to go and have a conversation with that person about working with them. Engage. Remind your audience why you're there and who you're there, and engage and engage. I can't emphasize enough how much engagement you should be doing from a social LinkedIn perspective. And know your audience. And this question came up earlier, and test different pieces of content, but really identify who your ideal clients are and find out what they like talking about. Find out the sorts of things that they will enjoy reading, and therefore they will engage with, and they will comment and they will like. And remember to comment back when they do that, and join in the conversation. Join in that whole conversation with them. So, sorry, we ran over by 2 minutes and I've talked quite a lot there. Does anybody have any further questions they wanted to raise? Oh, there's one there. Oh, thank you, Sarah. That's really great. Thanks for your feedback. Appreciate that. Thank you, Heidi Marie.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It's been great. And there was so much to cover. So if there's anything specific that you want any more detail on, then please, you've got my contact details. Please feel free to reach out and contact me.
No, I really enjoyed it. And my takeaways were the importance of using LinkedIn to grow the brand that you represent, as well as yourself, to use it to open doors for yourself and the brand that you work for. I'm going to check out the Canva tool. Canva.
It's brilliant. I love if you said to me which one tool would you not want to ever lose, it would be Canva. I love Canva. So definitely check it out.
And also in your byline, to tell people what you offer, not just your job title. I've got a really good example of that. So I don't know if you know Sarah Robb from Premier Foods. She's the head of marketing for food service.
Okay.
But her byline is marketing dynamo, using effective leadership to drive brand awareness that generates sales.
Brilliant. Perfect.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, no, that is really good. And actually there's a nice bit of a fun element to that as well, isn't there? Which is, again, it's really nice. And the point is people will remember that. And that's what we want, isn't it?
Exactly. And the fact that you don't need a professional videographer to share video content, that's always reassuring.
Exactly. Absolutely. And there's so many tutorials on places like YouTube these days, that if you just wanted to learn how to use, how to make a quick video, there's so much free stuff out there that, jump onto YouTube, because it's great stuff that you can use.
And can you share your slides, Amanda? Will we share them afterwards? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I can send them to you. That's absolutely fine.
Fantastic. And this session is actually being recorded as well, so we'll circulate the link afterwards.
Lovely.
Brilliant.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your questions. I really appreciate them. And thank you for inviting me.